Hey guys, we're back again with another kit this week. This time we're going to be looking at another figure kit with Revell's 1/8 scale Apollo 11 astronaut on the moon kit. Now, this particular kit is a reboxing for the 50th of the moon landing, with the molds originally dating back to the early 70s. Let's open her on up and take a look. Now, it is one of these flap open boxes, so it does make getting everything out a little bit of a challenge. So let's get into it, if assuming everything doesn't keep falling. So we'll start with the base as well as the one of the feet of the lander. Now, the included base is nice. I have no real complaints. It should detail up nicely. If I could find any fault with it, would have been nice had this plaque been a separate piece, just to make it easier to paint up and assemble. Other than that, I can't find any fault with it. It's a nice base and should paint up nicely. Now, as for the leg, you have the issue with the part number being imprinted on it, so that is going to be a little bit of a pill to clean up. Also have a little bit of ejector pin marks, but again, these should clean up a lot easier than trying to get that guy out. Hopefully that's shown up on camera. But otherwise, off to a decent start. Now, continuing on, we do get a fairly chunky piece of leg for the limb, as well as the ladder. These parts, obviously, given their size, I would say take your time with, just making sure the alignment is correct. Otherwise, you're going to have hours of sanding ahead of you, so just take this one very slow, making sure everything's aligned. Obviously, the ladder, just be delicate with it. No complaint there. Where we start to find some fault with this kit, however, is here on the hoses. These could have been a little better molded in terms of what they look like on the actual suit. Some of the detailing in them is poor. Personally, I think the best route would be to not use these at all and probably take some wire and wrap it with some aluminum foil. That should get you closer to the texture of the actual piece. Now, continuing on, move on to the legs and arms. Now, this is where things are going to get a little complicated, just because you're dealing with these hollow pieces and the plastic is on the thin side. So my best suggestion would be to assemble it, make sure you've got your alignments on all the parts correct, and then use some type of filler agent to strengthen up the structure. There was a type of paper putty type stuff that I heard that Daiso apparently carries. I haven't been able to find it myself. I heard about it from a different modeler. It's almost like a paper mache type product, but you can use it as a filling agent. And this would definitely be a piece that I would say go ahead and use it on. It should make it a little easier. Now, moving into the details on the suit, they are okay. They're not the best, they're not the worst. It's just sort of right there in the middle of the road. Only real area of complaint would be here in the hands. They're a little, and I do mean very little, overscale. So I'd say you might, if anything, replace them either through scratch building or sanding them down a little. And I would also say you might, if you do use them, try to thin out some of the detailing in here just to make it a little easier to see and more correctly detailed. Other than that, those parts, no real complaints. Now, moving on to the torso and head, and we'll start from the head down. The face sculpting is okay. Looking at photos of Neil Armstrong, who this is supposed to represent, the detail is okay. It's not the worst, it's not the best. It works in the general sense. Obviously, if you want to do a perfect representation, I would say, yeah, replace the head and try to find a more accurate sculpt. But for most people, it's good enough. This is a sort of horseshoes and hand grenades. It's close enough. Alternatively, if you just want to do a generic astronaut, it also works. But again, zoom in here a little. As I said, the detailing is okay. Yeah, it's not the worst, it's not the best. Only area I would say is here behind the head. Figuring some way to open that up, depending on what exactly you decide to do. That would be one area, at least in terms of the face and helmet. Now, continuing on. Now, this is where some of the detailing starts to get on the poor side. Namely, with these connectors for the hoses. Those are improperly detailed. This is one area where you definitely want to take a look at your reference photos, and if you are going to do a perfectly accurate spacesuit, you're going to need to replace those and sort of build out from there. If you're just trying to do something that's close or at least looks the part, you can keep them. But if you want a truly accurate, this is one area you're going to need to spend some time detailing. There's also a couple other straps that aren't present that are on the actual suit. Again, check your references. This is one area. It's going to take a little bit of work, but it'll pay off. Moving to the back, no real issue that I was able to find. But moving on now, the backpack. The backpack is another area where it's just that much off. It's ever so slightly too wide. The depth and height is more or less good from what I've been able to determine. But it's just like that much too wide. For most people, it would be fine. But again, if you want to do a super accurate spacesuit, this is another area you're probably going to need to replace. Now, continuing on, we have our clear part. Now, one interesting thing about this part. This didn't come with the kit. It's supposed to, but mine didn't. And initially when I was going to do this review, thankfully I was sick and didn't end up doing it. It offered enough time for this to actually get to me. So that's a big, big plus to Revell. They do a good job of making sure you're done right if you have missing parts. Without a doubt, that is a big plus. Now, as for the visor itself, it's molded in a slightly yellow color. I believe they're trying to do so that the reflective gold that you see in photos. I hate to say it, but it would have been better had they just done it in pure clear. So, and left you to either paint on a gold reflective chrome or just do it as the clear visor. So that is a definite minus there. Now, lastly, and this is another area where you may want to take a little time to do detailing is on this chest pack and camera. Chest pack is frankly just not correctly detailed. What the actual one looks like is significantly different. Camera is close, but obviously could be better detailed. So this is an area where if you want to do an accurate spacesuit, again, spend some time. Lastly, with this kit, does include some paints and some glue and a brush. So give me a second to get the parts back in, and we will then move on to the instructions and decals. Okay, so starting with the decals, not a whole lot to say here. They're pretty basic, straightforward. Colors in good register. You shouldn't really have too much issue with them. Now, moving on to the instructions. Overall, it simply starts with building up the torso. They do a decent job of instructing on how to paint and detail the face before moving on to the rest of the suit and its assembly. Again, not a whole lot to say. It's a pretty simple kit in terms of the build sequencing. Again, just main issues with some of the details. Obviously, once you finish up the astronaut himself, you'll then move on to detailing up the base, and that's it. So, overall, this kit's a little on the hit and miss side. Obviously, you don't really get subject matter in this scale that often. So, that is a definite point in its favor. But at the same time, and so I try to get the parts back in, same time, the execution of the details isn't that great. You know, obviously, when this kit was made, you know, the references should have been available. You know, it's not like early on in Space Race. We had, by the point this kit came out, already been to the moon. So, overall, this is one of those you could spend a lot of time on, or, you know, you can just say good enough and build it as is. Really, it comes down to how much time you want to invest in it. Personally, I think it's one that if you do spend the time, will look fantastic. But at the same time, even if you just want to build something quick and easy, it really shouldn't be that bad looking. But ultimately, it's going to come down to your individual taste and how much you want to invest in it. So, let's look at Revell's 1/8 scale Apollo 11 astronaut. An okay kit all around, but one that could definitely use some detailing. So, until next time.